name is Ben White, and this is Talent Talks. I'm here from Titus Talent Strategies, and with me today, I've got Vy from Traction Tools, one of our really good partners. And funny story, Vy is actually the first person we ever placed at Traction Tools. So I don't know if it was a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, something like that. But Vy is, she was what we call our Super Bowl fill, the first fill with a brand new client. Vy, could you tell us a little bit about you and what you do for Traction Tools?
Thanks, Ben. And first off, thank you for having me on here. A little bit about myself. I am the marketing technologist at Traction Tools. So I work with just about everybody in the company and under our systems security team to help them with their campaigns or just any other systems that we use on a daily basis. So that's kind of the condensed version of what I do.
Yeah. That sounds so much more complicated than what I do. I was listening to you talk about it, explain it. I'm picking up like 70% of these words and what they mean and functionally what that would represent. Well, yeah, thank you for coming on. We're really happy to have you and kind of talk a little bit about, value alignment and your organization and, and kind of what they mean to both of our companies collectively from a hiring and talent retention.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into this and I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to ask me and the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just jump into the first question, Ben. I think Traction Tools and Titus Talent has, quite a long partnership. I'd be interested to hear, how do you balance hiring for performance while still ensuring someone is a cultural fit for the client's company?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And, it's really important in my opinion, because you have to make sure performance is there, right? So many people talk about hiring for culture and that's an important thing to think about. But if someone is not going to perform in the role, none of the other stuff really matters, right? So for me, as someone who does a lot of project management in recruitment, you have to make sure that a person is able to come in and execute the role you're going to be putting them into. But that's not all that matters. Beyond that, you want to try to find value alignment. And one of the things that I love about Traction Tools is I know you guys have really strong values. You're a high performing company, so you got to check that box. But beyond that, we want to find someone who's going to fit in long term from a value perspective. So for me, it's always a balancing act. First, you have to make sure they have the ability there. When you have the ability there, great. Okay, you can check that box. They're going to perform. Now let's talk about values. And let's talk about, what motivates them, what inspires them, and how that's going to mesh with Traction Tools. So yeah, I guess the best answer to that is it is a balancing act, and you've got to really make sure you're checking both boxes.
Is there, sometimes I think that there is the performance and the cultural aspect that you had mentioned, but I don't know how it resonates with some other companies where they may be culturally fit, but the performance is pretty good, but it may not be up to par of what they're looking for. But some things like performance or abilities, you could potentially just teach them or show them if they have that value of being able to wanting to learn or whatever that fits culturally too. What are your thoughts on that?
That's very true. I mean, it is possible. And I think a lot of it comes down to situation, right? I mean, some companies, they'll say, Ben, I need someone who's going to hit the ground running. Mm-hmm. And in those circumstances, it's kind of hard to sell them on, hey, this person fits your values, great, but it might take 6 months for them to get up to speed. And then there are other situations in which they're saying, we've had a few people who just haven't really fit what we're trying to do here and our values, and we can teach the right person. So to me, that's a situation by situation basis. It's also can be one of those cases where it's like right person, wrong seat. Maybe you've got a great person for Traction Tools, but for whatever reason, they're in a seat where they're just not performing their role, but they've got other skills that could benefit the company. And I think that's one of those circumstances where you can be like, okay, well, let's see what else they can do here. Do we have a seat for this person? because from a value alignment standpoint, they're a strong match. And that does happen. I've certainly seen that happen before.
Thanks for going into that. I think something we were also chatting about before this was a scorecard value alignment.
Yeah.
And I was pretty interested in learning more about this from a Titus Talent side of things. Could you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, and this is interesting because it's a little bit different than when we brought you to Traction Tools. I think back in, when that happened, we had a different way of kind of assessing candidates. And now we have a scorecard. And what we try to do is we try to measure head, heart, and briefcase. So for head, we use predictive index. So it's an assessment that we use, and we can use personality assessment. We can do a cognitive assessment. We can set benchmarks and then see how candidates measure up to those benchmarks once you set them. Then we do heart, right? And that's values. So that's where value alignment comes in. So for, Traction Tools, you have a set of values, you'll define them. We go, okay, this is what's important. And then we'll go talk to candidates and we'll figure out, okay, do they align here? Is there that strong value alignment? So when they walk in the door, day one, things are just going to click from a value perspective. And then last is briefcase. That's what they've done in their career and see if they're proficient. So, that scorecard is kind of a thing at the last page of the document we use to interview people, and it kind of gives them a 1 to 5 scale. Like, how do they fit here? How is this a fit? So the things that are important to your organization from both a head, heart, and briefcase perspective, where's that go? And then at the end of the day, everybody ends up with a number, and a percentage match. And that's kind of how we use our scorecard, which is, I personally love it. We do it internally for Titus too, and it really helps. It helps you kind of assess what kind of fit someone would be for your organization in every single way that matters, which I think is neat.
I'm sorry, something you had mentioned was like the percentage matched. Does that the percentage match to based on what the company is looking for?
Yeah, right? Yeah.
So it could be different for everybody.
Totally. It really is. Because you've got to define that. You've got to define what the company's looking for. From a predictive index standpoint, you've got to kind of get the patterns and the ranges, and a cognitive standpoint, you want to set a number. I mean, there's all kinds of things, and it's different every time, which it should be, right? If you're hiring, it should be customized to what you want. So yeah, it's something that I think is extremely useful. I'd love to talk a little bit about your experience. So how so Traction Tools, you've been there for a while now, you have a decent sample size. How does being with Traction Tools compare to, maybe the last place you were, other places you've been?
Well, Traction Tools, something that they are great about is being really on our core values. We really, really strive to, we love to help is one of the core values. We're constantly optimizing. We'll find a way to win. And it's something that even through conversations with people every day, it somehow you remember the core values, because it's like, we love helping. We show it. We actually do what we say, or we're living those core values. I've been with companies in the past where you have those core values, but people don't really live it, or maybe they don't believe in it, or it's just words out there and nothing's really being done with it. So at Traction Tools, you really feel it with just the interactions you have with people, and people doing certain things that, like, hey, I'm working on this. It's like, oh yeah, I can help you. That's like, we love helping. Just something simple like that. And it happens so frequently that it makes you really believe it. And what's one of the things I really like about Traction Tools.
Yeah, I love those values too. Those are such good ones. Like, who doesn't resonate with wanting to help other people, or constantly getting better, or wanting to win? Like, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know who wouldn't love those.
And I would say during my hiring process, when I was being interviewed for Traction Tools, the people that were interviewing me, I even felt it during like the short conversations I had with them, their energy and those core values that they even mentioned probably during the interview, if I remember correctly. It's been a while. But just those short conversations, and if you can sense that immediately, that's something great.
Yeah, it's so funny you mentioned that, because one of the things I was hoping to ask you today was like, when did you know, right? Because I can recall when I was interviewing with Titus, which was a very long time ago now, and I remember like this feels like a little bit different because I've interviewed with other companies, I've been with other companies, and sometimes they say they have they've got culture, they've got values, and it's more of like a poster on a wall that lists words than something they live by, which is very different. So you're telling me that almost right away, like during the interview process, you actually started to feel like that values and that culture.
Right, just by the interactions and just by, I would say maybe the second conversation and doing an assessment, it's really made me feel like they do take this seriously. They want to find somebody that is compatible with their culture and the values that they want to uphold, because that's what makes them strong. And the assessment really took it to like another level of we're serious. We want to make sure you are a good fit for us.
So it's funny because we have 8 lived values, and those are values we live by. And that's like so many. When I think about it compared to 3, I'm like, man, you guys are like so focused. Like, these are the things. Is there one of those values that really resonate with you? Like, when you think of the 3, is there like, I'm a helping person or I'm a optimizing person? Which one really, if you had to pick one, which would be your favorite? Which really hits home?
I think the we'll find a way to win core value, because we are such a tight-knit group. And I think, there are obstacles that always get in the way of work and just doing things, and finding a way to win for us, like as a team, it's something that we always, I think, do. And I think kind of like the we love to help kind of falls into that, because if you're finding a way to win, you could be collaborating with other people and they're helping you to find that way to win.
Totally.
And it's, we've done some great things.
Well, and like the same way those two are connected, I would say like the constantly optimizing is also one that kind of ties in. Like, if you want to find a way to win, then you got to become a better version of yourself every single day, if you want to continue to be able to win. It's cool. I love your values. I love our values too. If anybody in Titus is watching this, I'm not saying I love Traction Tools values more, but I do love those values. I'm a competitive person, so find a way to win I think it's cool.
And I would like to add a quick asterisk on the conversation we had earlier about, something that Traction Tools core values versus maybe the companies in the past I have worked for. Not to knock any of them. That's
of course.
Some of them do have awesome core values, and it's the great companies that I've had experiences with. But Traction Tools just takes it to a whole nother level, I think.
No asterisks needed for me. I said what I said. No, but that's good. I would love to hear about your story a little bit more, because it's interesting as a recruitment professional, you really dive into a role and you learn about the role and what they're looking for, and then you go out and you find what you would consider to be the perfect person, and then you place that person with the company, and then sometimes just because we're all busy people, you lose track of that story and what's happened since you've been placed
since I've joined the team. Well, quite a bit has happened and changed since I've joined Traction Tools. When I started, I was a marketing manager at Traction Tools, and that was my role. That's what I was going to be doing. I would say maybe about 6 months in or so was when I started thinking about what I wanted for my future career, what I could see myself doing and what I actually enjoy doing. Because I've been in the marketing field for my whole professional career.
Sure.
And it was just like at that point where it was like, can I see myself doing this every day? Am I enjoying what I'm doing? And I think knowing the core values of Traction Tools and the people that run the company, I was able to be vulnerable. I was able to have these tough conversations with them. One of the things they also recommend that we do is take frequent clarity breaks, because we, run on EOS. That's one of the things that is part of it. And during these clarity break moments, I was thinking about those things, about my position and my role. But not gonna lie, I was pretty scared and nervous because they hired me on to do marketing. And I'm about to tell them that I don't know if I like marketing or enjoy this role anymore. So it was a little bit nerve-wracking, but like I mentioned, the people at Traction Tools, I felt comfortable, having these discussions with them, and they were very open to it. Part of the process, we're doing, to back up a little bit, like the reason why I also started thinking about this was the delegate and elevate exercise that they had us do. And it really made me think, like, I'm filling in these boxes and I'm like, do I really enjoy any of these? As I was thinking about some of the responsibilities for the role. And so fast forward a little bit, once having the conversations, we did the GWC exercise. And for anyone who doesn't know, that's the gets it, wants it capacity to do it. And that kind of helped figure out, like, where would be the best kind of department or position for me based on the GWC and what I actually enjoy doing. Once we figured those out, it happened probably within a month.
That is, like, if you think about that story, it's kind of a crazy story. Like, I can only imagine, as someone who hires, who's, I have a team that I manage, and after 6 months, one of my people said, "Hey, Ben, that thing you wanted me to do? I think I want to do something different." I'd have been like, "Whoa, pump the brakes a little bit." But that is, obviously it's worked out, because what is it now, a year since you've made that transition? Or
pretty much. I would, October, around this time of year, last year was when I started having those conversations, and we work quick. We're always finding a way to win and constantly optimizing, because we want people to do what they enjoy doing. And if there is a role for that in the company, let's have them do it.
I think it speaks to, like, the agile nature of Traction Tools, just to be like, okay, we have someone, they're doing a good job, they want to do something different. How can we make it work, and how can we leverage their skill set in the best possible way? So I think that's really neat.
I'm super grateful for it, and I definitely enjoy what I'm doing now, and I'm constantly learning new things every day. It's been quite the ride.
I bet.
So I have another question, Ben. Since you've been recruiting for Traction Tools for probably over a year now?
It's got to be a year and a half. Whenever you started, just rewind the clock 6 or 7 weeks. That's how long we've been recruiting and partnering with Traction Tools.
From your end, how has the hiring process evolved? Because I mentioned, doing the assessments, and I'd be interested to hear how things have evolved since then.
It's an interesting question. First of all, that seems like an eternity ago when we first started working with you, because of the state of the world and, like, just all the different roles we've worked on with Traction Tools. But there's been a ton of changes. I think for us as a company, so for Titus, I always feel like when you start working with, a company, there's a learning that takes place. Learning what works best for you, learning our process, from Traction Tools perspective, and how we work. And then there's sort of an area where, over time, you get used to that. we can make modifications as a partner that help suit your process and what makes sense. So I think a lot of change, we've incorporated predictive index into our hiring practice. I don't think we use that for the first couple of hires we did with Traction Tools. And now, we do that for just about every position. So not only do we use it during the screening, we can have someone take a personality assessment, cognitive assessment, but then we can also use it for onboarding. So we can give onboarding documentation to Traction Tools so that when someone comes, there's a unique experience for them based on their personality or their behavioral traits, which I think is really neat. We've also kind of expanded. We went from a very narrow focus to working, okay, we're going to do marketing. Now we're doing roles in IT and software development and, just kind of I think a wider spectrum of roles. Yeah. So I think, I think a lot has changed. And one of the good things that always happens the longer you work with a company is you build a relationship. So you establish trust there. And, you have to earn that in RC. You have to earn that as a partner. There's a lot of recruiting firms out there. They're probably not all super worthy of trust, but it's an important responsibility that we take on because we're going out there and we're representing your brand. And we have to learn, when we talk about your lived values, your core values there, we need to be able to see if someone has that or not. Is this the type of person who's going to help people? Is this the kind of person who's going to tirelessly want to win? Is this someone who tries to get better? We've got to learn that. And I think that's one of the things that's changed too. I think we're more adept at actually seeing that in a candidate and evaluating whether or not they're going to be a great value alignment fit for Traction Tools, which makes it a little bit easier for us to do our job too.
I think having that longer partnership, you probably have a better idea of the type of candidate we're looking for.
Oh yeah,
I would also
definitely
like to ask, since our tough standards, how do you make sure the clients that you're screening are going to be what the company that you're working for, the client's company, is looking for?
Yeah, it's important, right? It's a big piece of the puzzle. I mean, that kind of brings this whole conversation full circle. Yeah. One, we've got to make sure they know how to do the job, right? So we can ask, different questions around that. We can talk about their previous performance. We've got a battery of questions that we can ask people to kind of really dig in to see, is the performance there? Is the history of achievement and accomplishment there? Once we feel good about that, then it comes to, finding out, are they going to be in strong enough value alignment so that it makes sense for us to make this introduction. It's a big responsibility, especially when you have really good relationships like what we have with Traction Tools. To me, it's not just, okay, let's find this person. This is a relationship that we've established. I have a responsibility on behalf of Traction Tools to find them someone great. So, it just comes down to thorough screening. It comes down to really getting it, understanding what you're looking for from a performance standpoint. And then, we have the benefit now of understanding your culture and your values and being able to go out and assess someone for that. It's just taking that responsibility seriously and really digging in. The assessments help too. Predictive index really does help from a performance profile standpoint. That's another added piece we have, but it's really taking the responsibility to understand the values and screen thoroughly to make sure it's going to be a match.
And I bet you're probably screening hundreds, if not thousands, of candidates before we even see the short list of them.
Yeah. So there's a process, it's finding a bunch of people who have done roles, reaching out to them, selling them on what makes you unique, right? And if they don't love that, they're probably not a fit anyway. But if then they go, ooh, that sounds like a cool company. Yeah, I want to learn more. Then, and with each step, you're breaking it down. By the time we're putting someone forth, we feel pretty good about it.
On behalf of Traction Tools and me, we definitely appreciate your hard work at screening all these candidates.
Yeah, well, we appreciate the partnership too. I've said it to everyone I work with at your company that, you're one of my favorite clients, love working with you guys. It's been a really great partnership. And I think part of it is I see my own company in interaction with teams. You know, I see the agile nature of it, the competitive nature of it, the wanting to serve our clients in a good way. And it just, I feel like a lot of it, I just feel like it resonates. And now some of the people we've placed are now hiring managers. So there's the added fun of that, which is cool too. So we, you know, right back at you, we appreciate it. And I want to thank you just for coming on and talking to me today. It's been, I think it was a really good idea. You being the first person we ever placed with the company, I'm glad we get a chance to hear your perspective because it's a unique one.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on the podcast, and thank you for just being you guys.
Yeah, likewise. All right, thanks, V. Appreciate it.